This is a real simple exercise that will do several things for you. First of all, it'll help you build some strength into your hands and fingers, so that makes for easier and better notes. The other thing is will help with is finger dexterity, which is being able to get your fingers down and move around the fretboard much easier. The third thing is proper technique. So that means doing this without any cheating. You're going to use all 4 fingers. If you're the kind who always moves your hand, that won't work. It's going to limit you because you can only move your fingers so fast that you're limited to speed. The other thing is there's some things to play that require all 4 fingers, and so this makes you use all 4 fingers and holding your hand properly. So by doing this exercise regularly at first, it's not an exercise you're going to be doing every day for the next year, but this will help with building in proper technique so that when you do your playing, follow the same technique and it'll be much easier, second nature. The next thing is you're adjusting constantly to the fret spacing. So the frets are much farther apart, high up on the neck, as opposed to down here, the frets are closer. So you find yourself looking down, and you might always do that, but you don't have to look down as much because you're used to where your hand is. That's the fret spacing. So making a note here versus becomes second nature because you're used to the moving your hand, the spacing gets closer. The other thing is time. I always say exercises like this, practice with a metronome. I would start at about 50 beats per minute, maybe 60 beats per minute, but you may have to go slower. You may have to go a little bit faster, but I wouldn't go above 80 to start with. But most people who've been playing guitar just a couple of years, even some people who've been playing much longer, their sense of time is horrible. I've worked in the studio where they just are not going to cut it because their time isn't good enough. When you're playing with a song in the background, understand that if your time is off, you're not really going to know because the original song's covering up for that. You only have to be somewhat close. Well, if you go work in the studio or you want to play live, close doesn't cut it. So learning time is very, very important. So use a metronome. There's free apps for cell phones and free apps for everything else. But time, also helps you with learning to play better rhythms because how you divide the time for rhythms. So use a metronome, and in fact, when you start with a metronome, you can have it so, for instance, 60 beats per minute. You play with every click, but at some point, what you can do is make it so that you're playing 2 notes for every click, and then proceed to 4 notes per click. And that will help you even further with learning time. Now this exercise, like I said, I would do it once a day for at least a couple of weeks, and it will help you 100 times over just playing songs or just learning simple stuff. It will do so much more. You can play songs from now until doomsday, and you may never have proper technique, and it may be hard to fix later on. You may never learn proper time. So this will help you 100 times over just playing songs. And it's real simple. All you're doing is put down your first finger, and if this may hurt your hand a little bit to start with until you've been trying this for a few days to a week or two. So you may want to start at first playing up at the 5th fret, but it's the same idea. In the actual exercise, make sure clean, even notes. If you're doing it messy, then you've probably got bad technique. or rushing yourself, in which case you're not going to learn much of anything from doing this exercise. Start as slow as you need to have nice clean notes. It may even take a few days until you start getting cleaner notes, so just be aware of that as well, depending on your level. But it's basically the first finger and then the second finger. So you start off with holding the first finger down on the low E, and then playing, that's an F, so you're playing an F and then an F sharp. 4 of each. Then you're going to keep that first finger down and play the third finger, keeping the second and pinky up. Then you're going to keep the first finger down and play just with the pinky. And that's keeping that second and third finger up while you're doing that. Now you're going to go back to the 3rd fret. Then you're going to put the first and second finger. So you're playing an F sharp, and then keeping those first 2 fingers down, put the 3rd finger down to play the G. 4 of each. And then keeping the first 2 fingers down, put the pinky down. And then go back to, and then put the 3rd finger down in addition to the first 2. And then you're playing that, and then the pinky. And then you're going to lift the 3rd finger and just do 2nd and 3rd. And then move to the A string. And you do that until you get to the E string. I'm rushing a bit because my battery's about to go dead. Okay, when you get done with on that high E string, then what you'd simply do is slide everything up to the next fret. So starting at the 2nd fret this time with the first finger, and then put the 2nd finger down at the 3rd fret, and then the 3rd finger, keeping the 2nd up. And I messed up there for a second. There's different ways of doing this, so I'm just showing you one way. And then move to the B string, and the same thing. And work that all the way till you get to the back to the low E string. And then slide up again to the 3rd fret this time on that same string. So on the low E, you're going 3rd fret to the 4th fret. So first finger, 2nd finger, and so on. My battery's going to die. Anyway, so do that until you get up to, and every guitar is different. There's a point where it's going to be hard to get to those last notes. But I normally get to where my first finger ends up at the 15th fret. Some guitars I will go up to the 17th fret. Now, like I said, if you're starting out and this is very, very painful, it will be uncomfortable when you're first starting regardless if you've never done this and you never use proper technique. But if you're really having problems, just start at the 5th fret, and then move down to the 4th fret the next day, 3rd fret the next day, 2nd fret the next day, and the 1st fret the next day. And then you'll be able to work on the whole fretboard. You know, using proper technique, you'll get all those benefits. If you try to cheat, you're not gaining anything. So if you say, well, I can't use my pinky, because everybody can use their pinky unless they're missing it. So it's not a question of your hands are too small, too large, this or that. You need to use all 4 fingers, as long as you have them. So make sure you're doing this exactly as is, no cheating. And if you're putting down multiple fingers, like if at the point of putting down the first finger down, and you've done with the 2nd finger, and then you go to use the 3rd, okay, the point of the exercise is just the 1st and 3rd finger are down at that point for that note. Don't put your 2nd finger down. Okay, this is what's going to help with strength and dexterity especially. If you're cheating and putting both fingers down, same thing with the pinky, you're never going to get any strength in that pinky. But eventually, you know, you'll get some speed into it. So practice it once a day up the fretboard, and it will take you a while. It takes me, I think, normally, around 20 minutes. But you're only going to be doing this for a few weeks. Eventually, you're going to build up the strength and the dexterity and everything that it's going to help your playing so much, and you won't really need the exercise. So, but unfortunately, you know, for a lot of people, they never get really good technique. They build in bad technique, and it is very, very difficult, if not sometimes impossible, to undo bad technique. And that's what holds them back from getting things. But this exercise is one of the best things to get you past all of that. Like I said, you can play songs with songs from now until doomsday, and that will not teach you proper technique unless somebody's actually sitting there watching you doing it every single time, and giving you feedback on it. This will really help you a lot more.